Good morning, everyone. Welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Thursday, the 8th of May. Happy VE Day, everyone. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Joshua Barry. How's it going, Joshua?
Going good, mate. Going good. How are you? All right?
Yeah, all good. Thank you. Yeah, I can't complain. Looking ahead to the game at the weekend. Are we really? But looking ahead to this show anyway, a half hour to talk all things at Rangers. And there is plenty to discuss, thanks to Dave King, who was speaking to TalkSport yesterday regarding the takeover. Before we delve into that, a quick word for our podcast sponsors, S1 Jobs. If you're looking to hand in your transfer request, folks, head over to S1 Jobs and upload your CV today. There are thousands of jobs across Glasgow, Edinburgh, and the surrounding areas. You'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Right, let's get to it, shall we? So Dave King was on the Jim White show yesterday on TalkSport discussing the imminent takeover. He says that it is around 90% completed, and he expects the deal to be completed in June. He's also spoke of Saudi Arabian interest in Rangers before the 49ers Enterprises and Andrew Kavanagh got involved. And interesting stuff from Dave King on this. We have obviously heard a little statement from Rangers on it a good number of weeks ago now, but we haven't really heard talks on the takeover from a board member as in-depth as this from a major shareholder, Joshua. I thought it was very interesting from Dave King, and that June timeline sort of ties in with what we understand as well. It is a number of weeks away, but it is progressing, 90% complete. It's almost there.
Yeah, it kind of ties in with what Chris has said quite consistently, Derek, because there was some noises that when the consortium, a lot of members of the consortium were in Ibrox, and there was wider members of the 49ers group that were in Glasgow over that week. There was some belief that, is this going to be announced now? As we've suggested, that wasn't the case, and June is now the more likely timeline. You take it from someone as involved in the process as Dave King is, and obviously the fact that he is speaking publicly reaffirms that it's not a case necessarily of the deal being snagged for any reason. And again, that's been something that I think we've reaffirmed quite consistently, Derek, but has also been the background noise that this is just a big deal. There's a lot to be worked out. It's been going on for a while, yes, but the example we keep coming back to is that it's not just me buying a club off of you. It's not one person having a transaction to the other. It's a lot of different voices, a lot of different parties, a lot of different people on both sides. But a lot of interesting things to get into within what Dave King had to say, as you say, discussing the deal on TalkSport, the amount of investment that he thinks is required, because you'll remember back when John Bennett stood down as chairman, which feels like an absolute lifetime ago. I think it was in September of last year. Dave King spoke publicly about a willingness to come back as Rangers chairman for 2 years to get the project back up and running, in his view. He discussed then the level of investment he thought was required, and investor fatigue was the phrase he used that he repeated yesterday. But I think the encouraging thing for people listening to that or reading what Dave King had to say was the fact that there is the money here to make it work. It's not going to be a situation where tens and tens and tens of millions are spent at first in the transfer window, but there will be a level of investment at Rangers that wouldn't have been possible otherwise, ultimately to try and get the club back to a place it was a couple of years ago where it wasn't making losses, but it's actually starting to make profits from the transfer window and elsewhere, to make a sustainable cycle that just hasn't been the case since Rangers came back up through the leagues.
Yep, you can read everything he has to say on the website, but I'll read you some of the quotes that he said on the radio station yesterday, folks, just on looking for investors. He says that the fact Rangers had fallen so far behind following 55, I just felt the gap was too big to bridge, looking at local investment from the directors. I started a project at a time to see if I could try and find someone I could bring in who was substantial, who could take the club forward and not only had a football plan, but with a financial plan behind it as well. Someone with deeper pockets, someone with sustainability in terms of funding. I was talking to the Saudis at the time. Then I got a call around about October from Paul Murray. He said, look, Dave, I'm aware of you trying to find investors. I've got these guys, and I think they're the real deal. He then put me in touch with Andrew Kavanagh. We chatted, had a couple of initial meetings, and I asked him the one question, which is when a lot of these things fall apart, which is, can you give me proof of funds? He continued, before I take this forward, engage with other shareholders and board members. Can you give me proof of funds that you have the cash to not only buy out the existing weak shareholders would like to get out, but also enough to put enough new money into the club? It was only after they'd satisfied me through their bankers. I'm not going to disclose the figure, but the amount of money was very, very substantial. And then he said also it was the amount of money I thought was needed not only to get this deal done, but to fund the club for the next 2 years and to bridge what I see to be the gap between us and our competition at the moment. Once he provided the proof of funds, we then started serious negotiations with other shareholders and directors to see if they could package something that would allow them to come in and take control. So some interesting takeaways from that segment, Joshua. King was on, I think you spoke to Chris before. I think we had the piece on the website a good number of months ago that he was considering even coming back to sort of an interim role to look after the club for 2 years. He mentioned there about them having the cash to look after the club for 2 years. You'd like to think they're in for a longer haul than that, though.
Yeah, he said that in the interview, didn't he? He
Yeah.
said the interview that you're referring to was conducted when John Bennett had stood down as Rangers chairman way back in September. But there's a lot of, as you say, that people can read the majority of that interview on the website if they want to go through it on a written basis, not reading it. But one of the many things he said was these people are in this for the long haul. I think there's it gave some interesting insight from an insider's perspective, Derek, as to why the 49ers enterprises are involved in this. Because as we know, this isn't just Andrew Kavanagh, this isn't just the 49ers, it's a joint effort bringing together a number of people, which is obviously headed by Kavanagh Marathi. But what King effectively stressed was look at Leeds. Obviously in US sports, you don't have relegation. And that's something that is seen as quite problematic for owners because, again, as King explained in this interview, if you're Leeds going up at the moment and you see what happened, and this is why there was noise around Daniel Farke's future, you would presume. But if you're Leeds going up and you see what's happened to the 3 promoted sides who went up last year, Ipswich, Southampton, and who was the third team, Leicester, have all come straight back down, probably haven't changed their style that much. And there's that difficult thing to move on from being a yo-yo club. Burnley have been it in recent years. So therefore, the challenge with that is, well, do you really front load your investment to try and stay in the Premier League? But then the risk you're doing, if you do that, is well, what happens if you go back down and you see clubs kind of get caught in this cycle? Even someone like Luton, who you'd imagine would have had more money than they'd have ever needed going up to the Premier League, and yet have struggled. So I don't actually know where they finished in the Championship.
They get relegated again.
Did they get relegated again? Yeah. Wow. So that shows you I didn't know they'd actually got relegated.
Yeah.
But the point that King was making is it's a really difficult. It's so temperamental. There's so many variables when you're buying a club in England. Back when the news of this takeover was emerging, one of the topics behind the scene that was a topic of conversation was, look where Rangers are at the moment, right? Are they being run nearly to the best of their abilities? Do they have a long-term strategy? Have they had people in place for a concerted period of time? All the stuff we speak about so regularly, Derek. No. Now, they've obviously made these substantial losses, but what you do have is a guarantee that they're probably always going to get European football, which is a good base to work from. They should, if they're run effectively, be able to get Champions League football. And they've not had enough of that based on how well they've done in Europe in recent years. And they should be able to develop talents, given the league they're at, the exposure they have. Someone like Nico Raskin, who comes in for £1 million and will be sold for a lot more of that. They should be able to do that more consistently. So it's a more predictable base to work off. You buy the club for a lot less than you'd maybe buy in a league like the Premier League, and it has so much potential. There's lots of interesting side notes in Scottish football. Tony Bloom's investment in Hearts, don't ignore that. That could be really significant. And you see, if this takeover wasn't happening, Derek and Rangers, let's say they had the same infrastructure at the very top of the club, the ownership structure, as they did this time last year, I'd be looking at that and thinking there's no guarantees on second tier in the next couple of years, because that too, alongside the Black Knights investment in Hibs, shows that other clubs are trying to be innovative and progress and modernise. But Rangers probably offers a bit more, in a strange way, stability than the Leeds project, even if it's going to take finances at the start to get it moving.
Well, he did touch on that, Dave King, about, of course, having Leeds and Rangers as their two clubs. He says, I see the opposite of a risk. I may be being unkind to Leeds here, but I think the difference, which is understood by Andrew and the 49ers, is that with Rangers, you don't have a yo-yo risk, like you said there, Joshua, with no disrespect to Leeds. Yeah, there is a great opportunity at Rangers. Of course, just need to beat Celtic and come top of the tree in Scotland, and then that opens up the Champions League riches. And of course, they do have an opportunity this season if they can negotiate what looks likely will be 3 qualifiers. If Athletic Bilbao don't produce something quite remarkable at Old Trafford tonight, then yeah, it will be 3 qualifiers that Rangers will have to negotiate. He was also pressed on the managerial situation, Dave King. He said that he's no idea who that will be. He says, as far as the actual manager and who they're looking at, I have no idea. So there you go. He is speculating, like the rest of us, about who could potentially take over the club. But we are expecting that June completion date. And a few comments coming in just off the back of that. McGinley says, let's fire this up. Morning, Bears. Hope we get an announcement soon and not mid-June, like King says. Way too late, in my opinion. It may be June, Joshua, but as we touched on yesterday and we've mentioned on shows before, a lot of work is taking place behind the scenes just now. It's not a case of, right, we'll need to wait for this takeover to be ratified, then we can get to work. Things are already taking shape.
Yeah, very much so. We've got a piece coming out today on the website, which gives a little bit more insight into this, but this isn't a case of the outgoing regime, shall we say, dictating who, sitting down and doing the manager interviews, and it's only when the keys are handed over officially in June that Andrew Kavanagh and Parag Marathi, Greta Steinson and others, Kevin Thelwell, get some insight into what's happening. That's just not how these things work. Thelwell has obviously still got a job to finish at Everton, and as they transition towards kind of a new executive structure themselves,
if anything there, I don't think.
Yeah, well, again, this will be included in some of the articles that we put over the next couple of days. He is involved in the managerial process, the interviews alongside Greta Steinson. We're led to believe that Rangers do have a long list of candidates now, and there's a hope that, we touched on this yesterday, maybe a reality that the managerial appointment could actually come before the official confirmation of the takeover. That's obviously unpredictable on either side. It depends on how long the actual final 10% does take to complete, but it's not a situation whereby it's only when the takeover is officially completed, Derek, that managerial interviews kick off. Because as Barry Ferguson rightly says, there's Champions League qualifiers to play. There's pre-season to plan, and something that we've not even spoke that much about naturally in recent weeks because of the takeover is the transfer window. As Johnny and I were speaking about recently, it was put to me recently, see 15 players go out the door this summer, and that's not even that ambitious a prediction. When you think of the players out of contract, when you think of the players coming back from loan, and you think of the players that could potentially go out the door to make some funds available. Can Rangers hold on to Nico Raskin and Hamza Igaman this summer? I would be surprised if both of those players are Rangers players in next season. So it's going to be a lot of the squad that Rangers have in pre-season is probably not the squad that they're going to have the beginning of September when the transfer window closes, and it is going to be a difficult job for whatever manager comes in to get up and running. This has effectively been a wasted transition season. You know, there's no And that again is a criticism I think that is due since February. You should have just played, I think, aside from the European run, played players who are going to be here next season and young players who are going to develop. That has happened in some situations, like Bailey Rice and Finlay Curtis has had opportunities, but others have not. So you've not really had a head start going into pre-season with a spine of the team that you are certain are going to play. What about Jack Butland's future, Derek? You know, he hasn't played in a long time. Who is your centre forward? Cyril Dessers is going into the final 2 years of his contract. You have the Ridvan Yilmaz situation. Can Rangers hold on to Nico Raskin? So many different subplots, and it's going to be so uncertain as to what happens over these summer months.
Yes, the bit on cash and them having a lot of money to spend now. I know that there's going to be. No, Marathi was quizzed on the open top bus parade in Leeds on I think was it Monday. It was when they were all knocking back these champers, and he said they'd spend as much as they could. They would be allowed to make Leeds a force, not only in the Premier League but also in Europe as well. I'm quite excited at the prospect of who Rangers may look to target and the sort of money that may be spent on players, Joshua. The club, I would imagine, would be shopping in perhaps a different market than they would be if this takeover isn't taking place. So that for a supporter might be quite exciting at the sort of levels of spend we may see now. You mentioned there 15 players may go out the door. I've seen reports, of course, there's a number of that will be leaving. I think Dowell, Lawrence, Davis, Matondo,
Cifuentes. There's so many names you kind of forget about.
Yeah, you can rhyme them off. But in terms of players coming in, Rangers can you foresee like marquee signings, big money being spent on players?
Well, it needs to be marquee signings, I would say, because again, what Rangers have had in the last couple of years. They signed 11 players last summer, and I think the initial plan was that there would be one or two more marquee signings, and that the belief at the end of that window was there's obviously limited money that Rangers could spend. How much did they spend in the whole last transfer window last summer? It was like 12, 13 million, and I think Celtic outspent them on deadline day alone, which just goes to show you the financial gap that existed last summer. But over the last 2 years, in 2023, Rangers signed 9 players, I want to say. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. The season after, 11 players. It's an unsustainable squad turnover. If you look at the starting 11 on the first day of the season, 23-24, starting 11 this season and next season, and you'll see the variation and change within it. It's an unsustainable level of change to be as accurate in the transfer window as you need to. I think Rangers have made a lot of good signings last summer. I think there's some question marks. I think there's some that owe to circumstance a little bit. They're going to need to have a few hits early. They're like someone like Cherney who came in on a loan deal. That is, I think, been a pretty excellent signing. The fact that he came off a season where he hadn't played that much too. You find Hamza Egaman kind of out of nowhere, and that speaks to some of the changes in the recruitment department, which ties into what Kevin Thelwell will now do, and we'll cover that at a later date because there's some interesting points to discuss there. But I'd more be of the opinion, Derek, and I don't know about you, I'll put it back to you. You don't need to go and buy 12, 13 players at a 1, 2, 3 million benchmark. I think you need to go out and get 4, 5, 6 of higher quality to build around for the next few years. This Rangers squad, this squad needs a spine. It needs a centre-back to build around. Go way back to Jose Cordoba and the intention this time last year when he was a guest at the 4-1 win over Kilmarnock, and the deal broke down for reasons that we've explained in the past. Rangers need to invest there. If Raskin goes, they need to invest in the middle of the park. What happens with Hamza Egaman and what happens in goal? So there's a whole new spine of the squad. I don't know about you. I'd rather see 8 players come in, 5 are of a brilliant quality, and 3 are thereabouts, than see 13 come in, but only 2 of them can make the impact you want. Do you know what I mean? So it might be a little bit of quality over quantity.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I agree. Colin with the point says, if we just need to buy 6 or 7 quality players, I think Chris Boyd said that recently on Sky, goalkeeper, 2 centre-backs, a central midfielder, 2 wingers and a striker. In terms of that spine you talk about, if Raskin stays, that's your midfielder. You'd imagine one of the first names in the team sheet. I still think you definitely need a new goalkeeper, a number 1. A centre-back, at least one, probably 2 centre-backs, and a striker as well. Even if Igman stays, I think you need a more experienced front man up there. I'm just excited. I mean, it was on the Q&A show on Tuesday, not on the Extra channel, and it was just someone asked about what sort of money could be spent under the new ownership. Could we potentially see that record fee of Tor André Flo wiped out at some point under their tenure? Who knows? We're going to a bit of an unknown stage at this point in time.
I'd be surprised this summer if that was broken. And there is again, it's something that we'll cover, and we've had a little bit of coverage of this on the site, but we'll do a little bit more. There is, you can't just come into a club and say, I want to spend this and deal with it. As you know, there's regulations that you have to comply with, and I'm led to believe that at the moment the budget's still unknown as to what Rangers actually have, and that's been the case for a long time because of the uncertainty surrounding this. Is it going to be more money than Rangers had to play with last summer? You'd like to think so. But also, if you look at Leeds transfer business, and especially Gretar Steinson's involvement in this, I remember speaking to someone about him recently, and the fact that there was a couple of deals, and there was a bit of angst around Leeds transfer business in the summer window last year because they obviously hadn't gone right back up. I think I'm right in saying to the Premier League.
In the playoff final.
Yeah, but these the Rangers new owners are obviously coming in to make this into a business that makes money and is profitable and is successful. But I also think if you look at their background and just, speaking very obviously, the background of American sports, the influence of data, I don't think that they will be rushing in to make deals and pay over the odds. I think it will be an element of the long game too and try to build something. The difficulty they've got, Derek, is people have, how much fatigue do you have around the word rebuild? It's been used. Yeah, you can't even use it in an out of work context. You can't rebuild anything. And a word that's banned at home. But like that's true. You're going into this next season, off the back of 3 pretty miserable campaigns.
Yeah,
domestically, which puts pressure on the manager that's coming in, and that's a consideration too. That it's there's if Dave King calls it investor fatigue, then I think there's been supporter fatigue to it. What people have been served up,
Yeah, there has been supporter fatigue. That there is no doubt. I like this. Blazing Blue says, "Can you do a segment on FFP? There's a lot who don't understand the rules and time frames. We should get our finance guy on, Kieran Canning, isn't it? That's written a couple of great articles.
Yes,
yes, on the website. We'll look to get him on at some point, buddy. I think that would be a good show. You're quite right there. A bit of an explainer show. Just on sales, Blazing Blue also gets back in touch, says we'll bring in at least 10 million with player sales. Ones we don't want. Lawrence Nahaji off the wage bill. 2, top that with Nico and Hamza potential sales. Seen a report down in Birmingham. I'm not too sure the legitimacy, but Dowell and Stavis, of course, have been on loan at Birmingham. We had a Birmingham podcaster on it a month or so ago. And he did say that they're very keen on Kieran Dill. Wasn't sure on Ben Davis, but I don't think he'll have an issue finding a club if he doesn't join the Blues on a permanent basis. By all accounts, they've done well though down there, Joshua. Rangers can recoup a bit of cash for them. I've seen £3.5 million again. Not too sure where. It was Birmingham World, I think, down south, got that figure from. But if Rangers can get anywhere near that for those 2, I'd be biting your hand off.
Yeah, we have. Who's out on loans? You have Davies, Dowell, Matondo, Cifuentes. Trying to think who else off the top of my head. There is some other
Young boys that are out on loan as well.
A lot of young players who are. They need to. If you get a little bit for all of those players, then it mounts up, doesn't it? There's some substantial wages, especially in regards to Matondo and Davies to get off.
Yeah,
the wage bill too. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the academy going forward, the under-19s league. Obviously, it was an encouraging night for Rangers winning the Glasgow Cup with that young squad, with a number of 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds on the pitch against a Celtic team that was more established and plays in the B-team league together. How does that feed in to the club? Bailey Rice, what's his role next season? Does he stay around? Does he go out on loan to get consistent game time? There's so many unanswered questions. And then you have the contract situations. I know you discussed Leon Balogun earlier in the week, but Tom Lawrence is obviously out of contract and won't be renewing. We're led to believe, but Yanis Hadji and go on.
Would you keep Balogun next year? Give him a new year?
I thought he was very good at the weekend.
Yeah,
thought he was very good at the weekend. Look at the centre back situation. So you got Suter, who's his contract situation ongoing.
Yep.
You have Nsiala, who is, I think, a really promising player, but because of the last few months, you're thinking, is he ready to be third choice? I think he probably will be, should be.
Yes.
In an ideal world, if their signings of Rafael Fernandez and Casemiro worked out, maybe you're signing one of them, and that gives you a bit more stability. And again, thinking hypothetically, Derek, if you've got Nsiala's played 30 games instead of 12 or 15, whatever it is, and Casemiro's played the whole season, you have a little bit more stability there and certainty. If Dujon Sterling hasn't been injured, so there's so much uncertainty around the centre-back area. Robin Proper, is he good enough to be one of the 4 centre-backs next season? And then you get someone like Leon Balogun. Could he be fourth choice? But I don't think there's value in Leon Balogun taking Clinton Nsiala's minutes. And I don't think there has been between now and the end of the season, purely because of his age. And the fact that Rangers have been so guilty of looking at the weekend and not the long-term picture, and then players' developments suffer. So there's a potential there, but again, I think that is a situation that is largely on hold for the next few weeks while everything goes on in the background. And Balogun, of course, will want to stay. He's spoken about that. Hadji's maybe a little bit different. He's at a different stage in his career. I think you could see his frustration when he was forced off was maybe because he doesn't know, is he going to get to play in this fixture again? What does his future hold? So I'm uncertain on Balogun. I think it very much depends on what happens elsewhere and how many centre-backs Rangers are likely to recruit.
I think you need some experienced pros in the squad. If you're looking at the players that could be moving on, Jack Butland's major question marks over him. Who's other experienced pros? Tav, Dessers. That's it. But
then, see this argument, you need experienced pros. I think that's fair, but who would you rather have at the moment if you're being cut? Would you rather have a season where you have Tavernier and Dessers with their experience, or Raskin and Egeman with? Do you know what I mean? So I don't think experienced pros has really worked for.
You need a blend, though. You can't have a full squad of just kids.
Why though? Because
successful teams have got a blend. I don't want to quote the famous Alan Hansen quote, but even the Man United team, when he came out with that, you don't win the league with kids. Man United had the boys, the class of '92 coming through, but they were littered with experienced heads in that team as well. It wasn't.
But they were quite good experienced heads. Would you know? I don't. You see Rangers squad. I agree. You do, of course. I'm speaking a little bit. I'm kind of going around the houses. Of course, you do need experience in the dressing room, whatever that means. But also, I'd rather have a squad that's like. I can feel if Johnny's watching. I can feel him shouting back at the screen here. I'd rather have a squad that goes and makes mistakes the first time, and learn and has a potential to improve, rather than experienced heads who you kind of know how the story ends. Do you know what I mean? People can let us know in the comments below. I'm sure everyone will tell me I'm wrong. It's not that Rangers do not need experience, but if they're looking to squad build next season, Derek, and I guess this has been the story of the second half of the campaign too. I'd just like to see them play players like Nsiala over Balogun, because Balogun had a great game at the weekend. I think he's been a great servant for Rangers, and I think if they'd signed him earlier in his career, he could have stayed here for a long, long time. But they also released him in the summer of 2022 to create a pathway at centre-back. And it's now 2025, and we're talking about another 1 year renewal. You know?
Yeah.
There you go.
In hindsight, I don't think you should have let him go, to be honest, Leon Balogun. Incidentally, I watched him a lot when he was at Wigan before Rangers signed him, and I thought, decent player, but prone to lapses in concentration and going on mazy runs and losing the ball in advanced areas. So I was very concerned that we would see that at Rangers, but I thought he was, he was excellent during that 55 season. Very dependable, Leon Balogun. Very rarely lets you down. Has his limitations, of course, but thought he was excellent on Sunday. And these big games.
He was really good on Sunday. And he's like, I thought it was his best game in a while. And he had that moment where he let the ball run across his body, and you thought that he's going to let the Celtic play. I think it was Yang.
Brilliant tackle.
But it was, was it Forrest in the first half?
Yeah.
And I think Rangers look more secure when they've got Balogun back there because he can cover one-on-ones in a way that Proper can't. Yeah.
Proper, I'd be moving Proper on. I don't think it's worked, has it?
No, it's not. Yeah. It's not worked. In some European games, and again, he didn't come in on a big wage or a big fee, so there's a bit of short-termism to it. It's not as if he's coming in and signed a 5-year deal on an extraordinary wage. You need players to build around at the back. You need a spine. What happens in goals? Also, what happens in goals because you've got Mason Munn and Maguire there too.
Yeah,
both of whom Rangers have really high hopes for. Maguire's 17, Munn is 18, maybe going on 19.
He should go out on loan for Maguire next season.
Yeah. Or do you keep him, or does Munn go out on loan and Maguire's your third choice keeper because he's only 17 and he plays in the 19s league?
Yep. One or the other have to go out and get game time. We can't have Leon King-esque situations happening again.
No, agree. Which is why it's good to see Bailey Rice get game time. That is one thing that Barry Ferguson has done. He's trusted him in there. Yeah. Because how do these players improve? You just expose them to games. And we've got a piece coming out at some point over summer. One of many. People are going to get sick of us saying this, but there's so many strands to follow. But speaking with early coaches, scout who found them, and different people involved in Bailey Rice's journey, he's always been a kind of a talent that people from a young age have known. He has the ability. It's just about making it work and making it work at the right club at the right time. It's been good to see him get an opportunity, but we need to. I just think as a country, we need to trust young players more. But not the first person to say that.
It would also be good to see him sign a new deal, Bailey Rice, because a lot of interest, as you can imagine, in the young lad. But he's broke through a bit. I would like to see him in the final 3 games of the season, starting those, and ditto Clinton Enciala and a number of others. Before we wrap up, just a quick plug again, folks. We are giving away a wonderful signed and framed Ali McCoy's jersey, the jersey he is wearing on your screen from the fabled 9 in a row season. If you want to be in with a chance of winning that, all you have to do is sign up to the Rangers Review, the website. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe to sign up. It is only £1 for 6 months, which is amazing value in itself. But you also get entered into the draw for this wonderful jersey. You have until midnight on the 12th of May to be in with a chance. Existing subscribers automatically entered into the draw as well. So, fantastic giveaway. I would love to enter myself, but I'm unable to. So this is the website, folks, not the YouTube channel. So, of course, if you aren't subscribed to the website, head on over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe. Right, we'll wrap up there. Big thank you to Joshua as ever. You're not on, Joshua, with me before Sunday. How do you see it going, Aberdeen?
How do I see it going? Don't know, really. What do you think the team's going to be? What do you think the team's going to be? Do you think we'll see? If we see, and this is not a personal slight, if Cyril Dessers leads the line instead of Hamza Gaman, and I'm not talking about form. I know he scored 47 goals. I've spoken about his qualities a lot, and I feel like I've defended him at points. But can we just see Hamza Gaman at number? You know what I mean?
Please.
Surely.
Not
for, and this is just from a from a journalistic point of view, it's something different.
We know what we can get from Dessers. We've seen Dessers and fair play. It's a good goal scoring record. I want to see Igaman. I want to see Danilo. I want to see Cortez. And as mentioned there, the young lads as well. Let's see some of the boys that are on the fringes that are not getting an opportunity. Now is the time. If they don't get a chance now, then forget it, really.
Yeah, 100%. So I would like to see Bailey Rice start, Enciala, Danilo, Cortez. Danilo, another one whose future's right up in the air at the moment, given the second half of the season. So what about you? Are you brimming with anticipation for this one?
I cannot wait for it. But the sooner that we get this, the 3 league games out the way, I think the better. We all want to look ahead to the summer and some of the names that are going to be arriving at the club. Let's get this season out the way. It's been largely forgettable aside from Europe, and hopefully good times are around the corner. But I can see, will Rangers win? Who knows, really? The Ibrox record is utterly deplorable. I think 7 now without a win, which is
it?
Yeah, it hasn't been done before in the history of the club, which just beggars belief, really. So I'd just like Barry to get a home win, just for Barry's sake as well. It's just, you can imagine he'll be kicking every ball in his living room and what have you, wanting to get that, itching to get that monkey off his back, if you like. So hopefully he can do that and get a win, and hopefully the fans can cheer something which they haven't been able to do much at home. But there you go. Tomorrow, Chris will be back on with me, folks. It is press conference day tomorrow, so we'll hear from Barry and whatever player is put up for the press. But if we don't speak to you until then enjoy your Thursday. Bye for now.